All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Todd Schneider here. This training is a training that's required by the prime vendors once a month or once a quarter. It depends on the prime vendor. Anyway, we're going to teach other agents how to successfully bid and get an accepted offer on a HUD home. So let's go right into it because we got a full hour that we're going to need to do. An overview of a HUD. Well, let me back up. For those of you who do not know what a HUD home is, a HUD home is an FHA loan that went bad, and it was originated from another bank like, I don't know, Wells Fargo, B of A, whoever. Anyway, they have to do the foreclosure. And then once they do the foreclosure, then the bank itself must make the decision on what they're going to do. Are they going to keep it and sell it themselves as part of their own REO portfolio, or are they going to turn it into HUD? And HUD is the insurance claim. So technically, HUD does not foreclose on that property. They're the insurer, and they take it. If they turn it in, they work out their deal. So, and that's how it comes to HUD. They deed the home to HUD. HUD gives them their money. Everybody moves forward. So that's what a HUD home is. FHA went bad. So here's an overview of HUD. You got the main body of HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development. Sorry, my throat's going. And then underneath that, for the REO properties or HUD listings, you got four home ownership centers. We call them Hawks. You got the Santa Ana, Denver, Atlanta, Philly. Um, and pretty much, and believe it or not, the others have very great importance. But basically, the Atlanta Hawk basically runs the entire country. That's just a side note. Um, and when you get below that, the MCM or the mortgagee compliance, they're the ones who make sure all the paperwork when it's coming from the other banks over to HUD, everything's supposed to be in order. Then you have field services. Field services goes out and cleans up the property, repairs anything that needs to be repaired, absolutely necessary, like a hole in the roof, a busted door, or whatever it needs to be done because HUD doesn't fix anything unless it has no choice. And then you've got asset managers. And those are the ones that we deal with when we list these HUD homes. And there's actually three in the United States right now. The HUD contracts just changed hands. They're called prime vendors. We think of them as asset managers, but they're prime vendors. So there's three. One's Rain Companies. The other one is KMM or KM Minimayor. We just call them KMM. And then we have A-Team Realty. Now, some of you are in different parts of the states. I know some of you have Rain, some of you have KMM, and some of you have A-Team. So we'll cover this and how different quirks with each one work. Um, well, this really doesn't mean anything to you all. To us as listing brokers, it means a little bit to us. Um, we're just going to skip this and move on. I want to save time because there's a lot to talk about. Just if you want a visual of how the country is broken up, who handles what, Santa Ana, Denver, the Philly Hawk, and the Atlanta Hawk. Um, it's this, so you can see it for yourself, how it was broken down. And they call it, like, for example, I'm in Indiana and Kentucky, we're 4A. I also work with Illinois, that's 3A. Different regions is what they call them. They've broken them up. Okay, they put this in here because we had the mortgage moratoriums, and of course, the COVID really put a damper on everything. Inventory levels were extremely low. All right, I mean terribly, terribly low because of many factors, but mainly COVID and then the lack of foreclosure activity. Even if people were really far behind, and then they put some people in forbearance. We won't go deep, but that's what's going on. Now inventory levels are starting to shoot up. Inventory levels now are pretty much kind of where they were just before COVID. And the projections, I've seen HUD's projections on the back end, and 2026, we're going to probably double the inventory that we have this year in 25. In 27, we're going to triple the inventory that we have this year in 27 and actually 28. And their projections are pretty good. So in other words, the point is there's going to be more HUD inventory available on the market to make bids on. Uh, this is to teach you all what the best practices are and how to get your bid through, little quirks, and I'm going to teach you a couple of things. I've been doing this since 2010. They want to talk about the BSCA. The BSCA is a buyer select closing agent, and that's a fancy thing for your title company or your attorney. We're going to work that in here in just a little while as we go through the contract piece of it. Of a buyer agent, selling agent, here are your responsibilities are to log in, make your bid. You have to remit earnest money on time to get the e-signature. If you get the bid, e-sign the contract, buyer and BSCA also sign. I apologize. My throat's really getting sore. I want to keep this moving because this is cursory. I want to get into meat and bones. Once you get an accepted offer, you're going to be working with everybody along the way, just like a normal transaction. And that's what I want to stress to everyone. A HUD contract, once you see it, and we'll go through it here in a minute, it's different than a state contract, but it's very similar. They have a one-page actual contract. Your contract is actually one page, and then you got the quote addendums that go with it. It's called a 9548. All right. But the process is very, very similar. All right. It's just different paperwork. Now that we've been through the NAR lawsuits, litigations, this, that, and the other, as a buyer agent, you will need to get your documentation on state forms or whatever your corporation. Some of you are with EXP. EXP has some paperwork. Anyway, whatever the rules are for your state, your area, or your company, you'll need to get, in addition to the HUD contract stuff signed and executed, you'll need to take care of your own documentation as well. HUD will not provide that, just in case you didn't know that. This is federal, and then you're dealing with state and local municipalities. They want me to touch on the refund of earnest money. If you have an end user or an owner occupant prior to the contract execution. So in other words, you log in, you place your bid. They said, congratulations, you got the bid. You get your stuff getting together, you drop off the earnest money, and the buyer gets a loan denial immediately. They just, boom, done. You can't do it. Or they change their mind prior to the execution of the contract. And we'll talk about how it all works and the steps you go through. But you'll drop your earnest money off with the listing agent or broker in advance. You have to do that. Whether they keep it in their escrow account or they give it to the title company or the BSCA, all right, you're still going to give it to that agent because that agent must make a copy and turn it in on their side of the transaction. That's one of their requirements. And you are also required to do it as part of your duties when you get the bid accepted and you're doing it through HUD Home Store and putting everything in like you're supposed to. Okay. That's prior to contract execution. If they bail out, we just give it right back to you, done, over. Once the contract has been fully executed, then it depends on the company. Rain and KMM, I'm sorry, Rain and A-Team Realty, they require to send the funds to the title company or your BSCA. So you'll get it back from the BSCA. If you work with KMM, TMM requires the listing broker to keep the funds in their escrow account, and then that will be given out that way. I don't want to make it all confusing, but you have two companies doing it one way, the other company doing it with the broker keeping, but more like a traditional thing. Listing broker keeps EMD in their account. So anyway, okay, well, they have .com, and .com will work. HUDHomestore.com will work. But technically you need to go to .gov. We need to make a change on this slide. Lynn, would you make a note, please? Anyway, this is where you go to place your bid. You'll find it. Matter of fact, let me go to, got to stop presenting. Lynn, I want to jump back and forth here real quick. I want to go to a live database. Give me just a moment.
Does the title company have a period of time that they have to get the money returned, or?
Well, whatever the rules are for your state. I mean, every state has their own rules. Once you have the EMD release signed and executed, it should be instantaneous, pretty much. They get it, they return the EMD. But you're going to have to work that out with the title company and your state, whatever the rules are. Like in Indiana, in Kentucky, and Illinois, they've got 24 to 48 business hours to get that EMD check, at least in the mail, going back to whomever it's going to, whether it goes back to the agent or whatever. Okay, makes sense? All right, I'm going to a live database. I'm just going to go into Illinois real quick. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to go in, and they bring up the map. You can look for it over here in the HUD Home Store. But let's just grab a property. Here's a map. You can kind of zoom in. You know the area of town you're looking for. There's one right there. There's one. Let's just grab this one. What is? It'll open up. Well, come on today. Would be nice. Okay. So here's your property. Your client wants to make a bid on this property. So the thing you're going to do is log in, and you're going to click the submit bid button. Okay. It's going to add, the chat bot thing, captcha thing. Okay, today. And this is what you're going to see. All right. Once you've logged in, make sure everything at the top, you selected the right property. And then you're going to put in your purchase price, and you're going to tell them what type of financing it's going to be. All right. You're going to put in any closing costs. HUD will pay up to 3% of closing costs, but they have not prepaids, not crazy stuff, just closing costs associated with the loan. All right, just be clear about that. If you put in up to 3%, whatever 3% is on this house, they will pay up to that amount. You put the dollar figure in, not the percentage. The listing broker commission is grayed out. You can't change that. As a buyer's agent, you're allowed to choose up to 3% commission for yourself. All right. HUD still pays this, and they have not changed it. When we verified that, when the contract changed hand, we wanted to make sure that they were still going to offer buyer agency commissions. And they told us in advance that yes. So you're going to choose, 2%. Whatever your deal is with the buyer, that's what you're going to choose. Okay. Or you can do less. Okay. We're going to get to why you might choose less in a minute. Okay. In this particular property, investor is open right now. I guess it's been on the market longer than 30 days. Because that's what they do on these types of properties, owner occupants, and then investors can jump in on day 31 on this particular property. So you choose who they're going to be, and then you select they may hold as a backup offer, and then save and continue, and you're gonna go to the next. You know what? Let me just fill it out. Put price in. I just want to go to the next page. And now the next page. The purchase an employee, immediate family member, blah, 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 HUD. You're going to say most likely no. And you're going to answer the question. If it's an individual, check that. They're going to ask for social security numbers. And you're going to fill out all that contact information. You can add another purchaser. And when you fill this out on the individual person, if there's two buyers, I think you can add up to three on here. One, obviously, you have to have this SSNs or what's it called? I'm drawing a blank.
EIN.
Well, somebody who's not a citizen, but they have the card. You can enter that card number if they don't have a social. Not a naturalized citizens because they already have socials. What am I thinking of? Somebody, hey, who cares? You understand what I'm trying to say.
Is it their ITN number?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. Okay. You fill all that out for them, their current address, and a unique email address. If you have two purchasers, all right, they must have one. One person must have a unique email address, and the second one must. You can't. In other words, you can't use the same email address for both. And the reason for that is if you get the bid accepted, all right, then each one's going to have to sign the document. So it's, e-signature. HUD has gone e-signature all the way. So it will make round robin that way. I can't go any further on here. Because if I go too much further, and it's going to actually take this offer. So I'm going to have to back out.
Todd, I don't
Yes.
know if you know this. I learned this with one of my HUD listings. You can go all the way to the end and still not submit the bid. There's a separate button for that. Or you can save it and go back in later and either delete it or finish it and then submit it.
Well, okay. I'm not going to go any further though on this.
No, I know. I'm just saying for reference, if somebody, I had a buyer, they were interested in submitting a bid and then they changed their mind. So
Okay. Awesome.
FYI.
All right. Let's go to the next screen. Come on. Something's going on here. Just one moment. Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. Apologies. Okay, Lynn, what am I doing wrong?
Just click from current slide up on the upper left, right there. Now you
Okay,
go.
here we go. All right. Okay, they're going through. When you, when you log into HUD, I'm assuming that you already have or your company already has an NEID number. And that's what HUD uses. Every company, even in, EXP has one for each state. But Remax has franchises all over the place, other companies, Coldwell, all of them. And each office typically has their own unique NAID number that they've registered with HUD. So then the broker is responsible for that. And then after that, the broker will add you in, and you'll get an email when they add you in, and you'll set up your account to be able to bid under the broker's NAID number. So I'm assuming at this point, your company has one and you have already been registered. If your company has not registered, then it's very simple. You go to HUD Home Store, you click NAID registration, and your broker will have to sign up. They'll have to have a certain information. They'll sign up, and it takes anywhere, but the process has gotten much faster. It takes anywhere between 3 and 7 business days. They've gotten really good, unless there's a problem and they didn't include some documentation that they didn't have and they didn't submit it on time. They'll ask for that. After they get signed up and register, then they can add you in under them, and you're ready to go to bid on HUD homes. I think I just showed you this. Go to your state, pick the house, open it up. If it's still available, it'll be there. And then go to town. Now, I want to talk about financing codes, because when you go to the HUD Home Store website and you open up that property, it's going to say the home is either which is the IN, IE, and UI. All right, it stands for FHA insurable, FHA insurable with escrow, or FHA uninsurable. In other words, FHA in the normal sense, it will not qualify for FHA funding. However, that does not mean that it won't qualify for FHA 203K funding. And that's the K is the streamline up to $35,000 in repairs, or you can go full doc, as I always call it, and it's unlimited as long as the home will appraise for whatever dollar figure you want to sink into it. Okay. And that happens a lot. That happens more than you know. The 203K full doc. So insurable means that in its present condition, HUD says it'll straight out FHA funding, no problem. Okay. On insurable, the escrow, you'll look on there and see it's IE. And you can click on it and it tells you, there's documents in there that will tell you what they think is wrong with it and approximately how much it is to fix it. Okay. Now, insurable, the escrow, HUD properties, actual HUD-owned properties, are the only time that IE will ever apply in any transaction with FHA. Okay. And it has to be a HUD-owned property. And that dollar figure is incorrect. It's $10,000 now, not $5,000. It used to be $5,000 a couple of years ago. Anyway, what they say is this home is listed for, let's say, $100,000. Keep the numbers easy. And it needs $3,000 in repairs. So they will give you an escrow of $3,000. That's not a gift. If you bid $100,000 on the property and it needs $3,000 in repairs, you're going to be paying $103,000, or your client is, I'm sorry. So that's not a gift, but they're allowing it into the financing. And that's when you get a lender, they need to make sure, you need to make sure that they know how this works. Most of them do. After the great financial crisis or the GFC, most of them know all about this. Okay. But there might be a few who don't. So you need to make sure that the lender understands how this works. Okay. Up to $10,000. Now, if you bid on this property and you get this property and your inspector goes out there and finds, instead of $3,000 worth of repairs, it finds an additional $2,000 or $3,000. As long as it doesn't exceed the $10,000 threshold, I know this says 5, it's actually 10, we'll change this. You're golden, okay? It just rolls into the financing, it's not a problem. If it goes beyond the $10,000, then either you have a couple of choices. You can kill the deal, or you can go 203K, or switch financing altogether and go to a Icon or some other type of lending. And then uninsurable is exactly what it means. It will not qualify. You got to go 203K if you're going to use FHA funding. Does that make sense? Okay. Also, in the HUD home store, you'll see if it's in a flood zone, it will indicate that. If there's an HOA, it will indicate that. When you look at it online, you'll see that red X's. If it has a red X to it next to it, that means no problems. If it has a green check mark, then it's in a flood zone or it does have an HOA, and it will also give what the HOA fees are per month or per year. It will be listed in there. New listings come out every day. Well, in your state, who knows? You know, like I said, inventories are starting to pick up. I've seen really tremendous upticks in quite a few states right now. There are the Good Neighbor Next Door programs. They're very, oh, hang on. They're very few and far between the GND. Oh, sorry. Programs, but that's where firefighters, police officers, I think school teachers, and I think there's a couple of others that can actually bid on these and get them for 50% of what the ask price is. The kicker is they must live, if they get it and they take it, and they must live in it for 9 years. If they don't live in it for 9 years, there's some trouble. Okay, let's let's talk about well, we're not taking a 15-minute break. This was designed to give a lot. I'm used to giving it to a live audience, okay, in an auditorium or something. Anyway,
We do have a couple of questions in the chat, and it's just so you know, we've got 30 minutes left.
oh boy, we gotta hustle.
right.
Yeah, let's ask
All right.
questions.
Okay, so from Maryland, recently with EXP, does HUD use a master key? Because I haven't been able to get this answered by EXP if they supply it, or do we use an electronic key? I'm in Georgia.
You mean as a listing agent?
No, I think Maryland, are you a listing agent, or are you asking about the buying side of it? Oh, okay.
Well, either way, I can answer the question. Buyer's agents will be given a code. The listing agents must put a lockbox on it. And yes, there is a specific key code, but they're not allowed to give those out. Old days, you could get a HUD key. I think everybody had a HUD key back in the day. There were only like 2 of them for the whole nation. But they've changed that, and they've changed that a great deal. So the old HUD keys, they don't work anymore, ever. You'll have to schedule it with the listing agent or through your showing time or whatever service they want to use, the listing agent, and then and go, and there'll be a lockbox on there with the key to get in.
Okay, next one. Do listing agents have anything to do with IEIN and UI classification due to the information they provided on the initial inspection? And that's from Shakira.
I don't know the information provided on the initial inspection. that is given by field services. That is not provided by the listing agent or broker. Okay. Field services, that there's two separate entities there that us as listing people deal with. We don't deal with MCM. They're there. We understand how they work, but we don't care about them. What we care about is field services in the listing side. Field services does all of that stuff. They have a person supposedly knows what they're doing, goes out and they can perform what they call the HIPper, and they HUD inspection HUD property inspection report. That's what it is. Anyway, they do that. They turn it into HUD, and HUD uses that, and so does the asset manager uses that information to base the rest of it as they move forward off of. It's not 100%. Okay. As you inspect properties, you may find other latent defects that you didn't know about, or maybe they should have caught, but they didn't. It's not guaranteed, but it's a good representation of what's going on. Okay.
Okay, that's the last question, unless anybody else has one.
Why is
Okay.
it, why is it common that you don't see a kitchen stove in many of the listings when you look at them as a buyer?
Because that's personal property. Typically, HUD will, if it's there and it's quote usable and not just awful, a lot of times they'll leave it. Okay. However, certain municipalities, I know for a fact, Chicago, Cook County, a refrigerator, stove, a range, all must be there. Okay. That's a requirement. And if it's not there, somebody has to buy it and install it, and that's what they do.
Yeah, because you'll have an FHA buyer and you need a stove to cook on for the financing, and it won't be there. But
And HUD will allow that to be rolled into escrow.
okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right.
All right, 132, Todd.
All right. Now they're talking about submitting the bid. We went through that a little bit. As you go through each of those lines, you're going to see these lines pop up. The offer price, line 3, type of financing, any closing costs that are requested by the buyer, if they need some assistance there. Your commission, since HUD is offering it, make sure you get your commission. Net to HUD. That's the most important line when submitting a bid to HUD, is all they care about. They don't care if it's a cash deal. They don't care if it's an FHA loan. They don't care if it's hard money. Okay. The bottom line, and when they make their decision on whether a bid is acceptable, it's the net to HUD. That's all they care about. Okay. So if you're, they're offering, let's just say they offer their price, they have cash for deal, and they want no closing costs. Obviously, that's a good net to HUD. Okay. Now, when you place that bid, what I would recommend is a little tip and trick. The house is listed for $250,000. So if they're going to offer 240, let's just say, we're just throwing round numbers out there. All right. They're going to offer 240. Don't do 240. Do 240 and $112. Okay. Something odd. And but why I say that is if somebody else offers 240,000, because it's a hot property, and I've seen this happen many times, where you have 2 or 3 people bid the same amount. All right. Whoever got the bid in first is the winner. Okay. And in other words, today they're going to open bids tomorrow. So it's 24 hours, they're going to open bids. You get your bid in today, and at 3 p.m. you submit your bid. Somebody else submits there at 7 p.m. tonight. If it's the same bid and all the net to HUD is the same, whoever submitted the bid first wins. So that's why I suggest you change it. Even if it's $240,001, I don't care. It's a higher net to HUD. So that's what I recommend doing when you place bids. Just a little difference, couple bucks here or there. It makes a difference sometimes. I've seen it. All right, we're going to talk about the buyer type. You fill out your form, and okay, I just showed you this live. Review the bid, make it, submit it. All right, you win the bid. What's next? Okay, then net to HUD. I just talked about that. I forgot about this slide. Come on. Okay, I think we can all calculate net, right? Okay. Even the purchase, even the form has that on there. It will figure why you're actually working on it. All right. Okay. We covered this 3% commission. HUD right now, they did back in the day. They do not offer broker bonus, but they do offer repair escrows. Look at the property condition report. We're going to go live to that database in a minute. I'm going to show you all that. I talked about the repair escrows. That's not a gift. It's added to the loan. Yeah, up to 110%. Okay. Okay, come on. Okay, this is important to know. Even as the listing agent or broker, when you submit a bid to HUD, all right, no one but HUD, the system, let's just call it the system, knows what your bid is. You know, you can have 100 bids in there on a property, and I actually had one that I believe I think it was 75 bids on a HUD property. That I never see them. Nobody ever sees them. Nobody knows what you're doing unless the agent tells me what they bid, and I encourage that they don't do that because I might have a buyer. Okay, but simultaneous bidding for 10 days on most of the properties insured and insured with escrow, you got 10 days of simultaneous bidding. So you could get, 20 bids in there. And nobody knows. Just so you know that nobody can sneak behind you and up the bid unless you tell somebody. Okay. Yeah, okay, 24/7 and weekends and holidays. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's a good point right here. I'm just used to doing this Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. If you submit your bids, because they're not going to open bids until Monday, or unless Monday's a holiday and it'll be Tuesday. But in any event, that 3 or 4 day window, those bids are considered to have come in at the same time. So you don't have an advantage over anyone else by doing a little bit later. But I can tell you this, if it's the same bid, if the net to HUD is the same, all right, I'm going to tell you right now because I know this, all right, and it's not going to be on this form. If it's the same net to HUD, whoever submitted that bid first will get it. So if you submitted one on Friday and somebody else submitted on Sunday and it's the same, the Friday will get the bid. They don't have a choice. Daily bidding 11:59 on your local time zone. Okay, it's always 11:59. If you're Central Time, West Coast time, whatever, it's that time zone is when that bid is due in to be considered the next day. If you put it in at 12:01 at midnight, okay, that's not going to be on that bidding period. It'll be the next days. Okay, there is a confusion in the world out there about HUD. HUD does when they get a listing or a property, They do have appraisers go out to these properties. And actually, the appraiser is the one who actually determines what HUD is going to list that property at. Okay. However, that appraisal is not available to anyone. Okay. The buyer, if they want an appraisal, they must pay for their own appraisal. HUD does not share that information, and they never have, and they never will. And the repair escrow, if there is an escrow, let's say, for example, they say it's insurable, but your appraiser comes out there and they say, I'm sorry, we got a little minor things here. Couple $1,000s worth of repairs and needs to be done to bring this to FHA insurable condition. You will have to add that to the loan and make those repairs, or you can cancel the contract. Just so you know that. Okay, you have options, especially if it's an end user. Investors they don't ever get their earnest money back. There's a couple rare exceptions, but I don't even want to get into that. Okay, that's too deep, and I don't want to go that far. If that basis, if you're an investor, they think that you are a professional, you know what you're doing, you understand investments. So if you bid and you back out for whatever reason, other than maybe a tornado blows it down, okay, other than that, you're not getting your earnest money back, period. But the end user, a homeowner, is going to get it back. Earnest money. $49,999, $500, 50,000 to 249, $1,000. Anything over $250,000 is $2,000 earnest money. You cannot give more. Okay. If it's 500, it's 500. If it's 1,000, it's 1,000. It must be certified funds. And this says pays to the closing agent. It depends. Certified funds, money, typically just money order, cashier's check. Okay. I recommend cashier's check because you can take the cashier's check back to the bank and have it canceled and they deposit the money back into your account. You could do a money order, it's totally fine. But you have to make that payable to somebody. Okay. And if you stop at the Quickie Mart and get $1,000 EM or go down to the post office and get a money order from them, you have to make it payable to somebody. So if you make it payable to somebody, you're going to either have it made payable to your title company or attorney's office, or the broker, the listing broker. And like I said earlier, KMM is the only one who has the listing broker hold the earnest money. Okay. Rain and A-Team Realty send the EMD off to the title company. This is say title company. All right. So it gets made payable to them. You deliver it to the listing broker or agent. All right. They'll hold it until the contract gets fully executed. Once the contract gets fully executed, then it goes to the designated party. In this case, it would be the title company in most cases. I think most of you are in here, either A-Team or Rain. So Rain, that's good. So anyway, if you have to cancel that, a money order is very difficult to cancel when it's already made payable to somebody. So I have never had to do it. I always deal with cashier's checks. Just a recommendation. You do what you will. All right. Okay. You see that it goes where it needs to go. Okay. If it is a cash transaction, I want to talk about this. If it's a cash transaction, HUD gives you 30 days to close. All right. If it is a conventional or regular FHA loan, they give you 45 days, any type of loan, 45 days to close. If it's a 203K loan that they're using, they get automatically 60 days. Okay. Now, you get through the process, even cash, all right. And cash is also considered hard money lending. They allow it, it's not a problem, but hard money is considered cash. They got 30 days to close. Now, you can buy an extension. They will extend. That costs money. Okay, let's only get into that. We're not getting, okay. We'll get into that in a minute. When you do your extensions, you get to purchase them in 15-day windows. If it's under 50,000, it's $15 a day. If it's over 50,000, it is $25 a day. And you must buy them in 15-day increments. Okay. And that check, yeah, the form has to be filled out. And then also the check has to be sent in to the prime vendor. They have an address to send everything to it. Okay. So if you do not use all 15, say there was a slight lending problem, it's going to take an extra 3 or 4 days beyond the contract date. You still have to pay for the 15 days. All right. But they will credit back the difference of whatever days you don't use on the HUD, the settlement statement. Okay. So they don't waste it. It's not just given to HUD. They do get credit for it. For, if you use 7 days, you get 8 days refunded, that type of thing. Okay.
Would you please
Again,
would you please repeat the dollar amount?
anything under $50,000, $49,999. It's $15 a day for 15 days, whatever. I think it's 375 or no, it's 225, whatever it is. 225, and I think the other's 375, if I'm not mistaken, for the 15 days each. Yeah. Anything under 50, $15. Anything over 50, $25 for 15 days.
Would that extension be added during the transaction or created as part of the offer submitted?
Offer submit. Why would you ask for an extension right away?
It was just in chat. I'm not sure. Chris, do you want to?
I don't understand.
I just, I was just kind of thinking out loud, but I guess like you said, if you're doing a 203K, you've got 60 days, FHA's 45 days, you've already, you should be prepared going in anyway. And I think more of what you described was like, you're running along on your timeline, you need 2 days, you gotta buy a 15-day increment is kind of what you described. So I think I just answered my own question there.
Now, sometimes, and I'm going to say this, but don't take this to the bank, okay? If you've got an owner occupant and title tells them, hey, we're going to be delayed, it's the contract expires on Friday. We can't get it together on Friday, but we can get it closed on Monday. Sometimes, occasionally, the prime vendor will waive the fee. They just need the extension form. Now that happens sometimes. I've seen it. Okay. But there's no guarantee that they're going to waive those fees. But they would only do it for an owner occupant. I can tell you that. All right. Forfeiture of earnest money on the owner occupant side. Death in the immediate family. In other words, if somebody dies, yeah, you get your EMD back. Okay. Well, this is going to be a loan denial. Serious illness and immediate family affecting the person's financial ability. This is going to be on the lender anyway. I don't know why they put this in here. Loss of job. Obviously, these are pretty self-explanatory things. They want us to talk about pre-approved versus pre-qualified. You all have been around the block. I think we all know what pre-approved versus pre-qualified paperwork means. Okay. I don't want to waste time on that. If you have a question, we'll talk about it, but I think you all know. Do not, yeah, well, this is a rain thing here. because that's who, well, I did KMM and rain. Now I'm just rain on the whole area. But get your extensions. When you get the contract, okay, you go under contract, an extension form is included with your documentation once you have it fully executed, okay? And or you can go to the prime vendor, in this case it's Rain or KMM's or A Teams, and you download the extension form, fill it out and submit it. Okay. In other words, don't go expired. Okay, because if you go expired, you're out of contract. Now, many times I will say they're not just, if you forgot and it's a day late, okay, they're not going to just cancel you, keep your money, and you have to rebid. They don't operate that like that. That's not the way they operate at all. They want to help the homeowner as much as they can. But as an agent, you need to make sure you stay on top of it. Okay, don't let one expire. Then you're scrambling. All right. Okay, yeah. Cash is 30 days, 45 days, and the 203K is 60 days. Lynn, how are we doing on, oh,
You got
okay.
10 minutes. Sorry, I was muted.
On FHA funding, HUD will do termite at their expense. The buyer is any type of repairs the buyer is responsible for, okay? You have to add that into your quote escrow. If you exceed the $10,000 limit though, and then you're gonna have to go to either a different form of financing or transfer over to 203K, and they will do it. They don't have a problem doing it, and they might even give you a little extra time to get the deal done. And not charge you for it is what I'm saying, extension. Okay, especially you have to transfer it to a 203K. Let's see what else. If you're
Calendar,
gonna
I'm sorry, calendar days or business days, Shonda's asking.
on
Extensions.
no, it's calendar. I'm sorry, good question. Calendar days, not business days.
I have a good question every now and then.
There you
Every
go.
now and then.
All right. If you are not going to move forward, we need to reach out to the asset manager as soon as possible. But this particular slide is dealing with vandalism. You're out checking out the house and somebody stole the air conditioner. They stole the furnace. They stole a door. I don't know. Or kicked in the door and the kids went in there and had a big party and it's all trash and vandalism and all kinds of stuff. Or somebody stole the copper. When you see it, you need to let us know immediately. We check these properties out regularly, okay, but it could have happened between the times we are checking and inspecting these properties. All right. So if you see it as a buyer agent and you're under contract, let us know, because then I have to do it as a listing broker. And then field services also has to go out and document it. And that slows the whole process down, because then at that point, determinations need to be made. Number one, are you going to move forward? Is HUD going to give you any credit? Most of the time they don't. All right. I've seen it happen on rare occasions. They just give you the option to cancel the contract or move forward as is. Sometimes they'll give a little bit of credit. Sometimes they don't. Well, most of the time they don't actually. But they do give you the out to walk away. All right. There's a process that you have to go through, in other words, to do that. Come on. Okay, this is important. This is what most people really mess up on. The lender or the title company has to have the CD to HUD 7 days, 5 business days prior to closing. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100% complete, but they must have that preliminary to them 5 business days prior to the actual scheduled closing date. Okay? This is important. If they don't, and you're at the last day, you want to schedule the last day of the contract, okay? And you don't get it in and they don't get it in, guess what? You're going to be paying for an extension. They're sticklers about this, okay? That documentation must be in 5 business days, okay? Now, there might be some changes. Maybe there's an extra water bill that's, has to be disclosed on the CD at the end, or, other minor little things that have to be done. Those can be taken care of as that 5 days moves forward. But that primary lender, usually it's the lender, and title work that CD must be in there 5 days, period. Otherwise, you're not closing on the day that you want. It's a big deal, and people forget about it all the time. And I try my best to remember, keep the dates, and remind people, hey, you closing? Are you closing? Okay, got to get this in. But I don't catch every one. So you're going to be costing your client extension fees. Okay. Now, you aren't worried about this as the buyer agent, but we do. 5 days prior to the closing, we get triggered what we call a ready to close inspection. We go out, inspect the property, see everything's okay, acceptable, and you're going to do one as the buyer agent, as you get closer, the day before, maybe even the day of, I don't know, final walkthrough. But we do one. Okay. Must be approved by the lender and in 5 days. And the asset manager must also approve it. Obviously, that just makes sense. Now, I don't want to talk about this right now. I don't want to do this on a recorded line. Keys are not provided at the closing. Okay. You must be, we must let you in and you change the locks yourself. And we'll have another discussion about that in a minute.
2 minutes, Todd.
Well, I knew we were going to go over, but
Just so
slightly.
you-
I just don't want to go over by much.
Yeah, just want,
Work with a broker to get access. Okay. Rekey it. Keep this in mind. HUD pays for nothing. Okay. Absolutely nothing. They make you pay for the inspections. If it needs to be de-winterized, you have to pay the field services manager for that. You have to coordinate utilities, etc. The HUD pays nothing. Okay, just keep that in mind. All right. Utilities can be left on, and that's fine if you want to. Don't ever leave water on at an unoccupied property. Turn it off at the pit. Any questions at this point?
Is there any rough estimates of what de-winterizing costs to do, or, we all know,
Normally it's about $150 and field services does it.
okay, so it's not horrible. It's not thousands or nothing like that.
Tina, are you still on here? I know you weren't feeling well.
Yes, I'm still here.
What did your buyers have to pay for de-winterization?
They haven't done that yet.
Oh, okay.
We just completed the inspection.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they went the whole boat or not. That's why I was curious.
No,
Yeah, I know in Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Michigan, it's $150 with those guys. And it's pretty much standard. It might be 140, it might be 160, but it's all about the same. Now keep in mind though, when you get your bid and you want to have inspections done, the field services company does not turn on the utilities. All right. They give that $150 or thereabouts, approximately, is to de-winterize the property, perform your inspections, and then re-winterize the property after the inspections. If you leave the utilities on and the heat and everything, guess what? They're not going to refund anything. They keep it. Okay. But they do not turn on the utilities. It's the buyer's responsibility to turn on the utilities. Okay, to arrange for that. Now, some municipalities with a contract in hand will allow you to turn on the utilities at no charge for a couple of days to do the inspections and then turn them off. All right. I know in my city, they do not. In other cities in the state and neighboring states, they do allow that and they don't charge you anything. So you'll have to check your area and your new municipalities on what they do. But some will and some won't. All right, let's move along. What? Part of your HUD sales contract, the 9548 is your actual contract. Okay, that one-page form is your contract. And these other items come with it. You'll have an addendum, basically saying it's okay to e-sign, owner occupant certificate. If they're going to be owner occupants, they have to declare that, sign that form. They also send you got to get a home inspection, rate on gas, just like anything else. Other state contracts, the pieces together that you need to have, it's going to have all that, only they have their own forms. It's just not state forms. The only state forms you're going to need as a buyer agent is the new stuff with your buyer agencies and the terms and whatever your rules are for your state. Okay. That's the only state forms you truly need with HUD. Okay. When you get the bid accepted, you get the bid awarded to you. You will upload various information. You go back to HUD Home Store and oh, I got the bid. Click on it. Boom. Yay. Okay, great. You have things you need to upload in there. If there's a lender letter, you'll have to upload the proof of funds. A copy of the earnest money check. You'll have to upload that. If it's a business or a company of some sort, you'll have to upload articles of incorporation. I don't think they require IDs to be uploaded at this point. Tina, do you know? You didn't have to get a copy of it. You didn't have to get a copy of the IDs, did you?
No, and they tell you when everything is due by.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll give you a deadline.
Mm-hmm. And all you have to do is a PDF or Word doc type stuff, or even you can even take a photo of certain things. And as long as it's good, it's very clear, you can upload that in there as part of that. Okay. And then once you've got all the items uploaded and selected your BSCA, boom, you're golden. Then the e-signature contract will begin as long as everything's uploaded and acceptable. Yeah, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Contract cannot be initiated until everything's uploaded. They give you 48 business hours to do all of this. Just a little side note there, most of them will give you 3 days. Okay, they don't want to have to put it back onto the market, rebid it again, and this, that, and the other. So, but get it in 48 hours, business hours. Here's the laundry list, and anybody who wants a copy of this slide deck, I'll be happy to send it to you. You just need to let me know. It's pretty self-explanatory. Contract corrections, contract addendums. Okay, this is important. When you bid in the names or company that you're doing. If you want to, the primary person on the contract can never be removed on the contract. If there's a secondary bidder or a secondary person, buyer, you can replace them, you can remove them, you can do that. But whoever the primary is, they can never be removed from the contract. You can add to, you want to add more people, This happens a lot with investor transactions. The lender wants to be added to title, that type to the contracting title, that type of thing. Okay, just keep that in mind. Now, once your bid is submitted and you've been accepted, the bid has been accepted, but you don't have a contract yet, and you want to make changes, I strongly recommend you not doing so in the middle of the bid to execute a contract. I recommend you doing it after the contract's been executed, and then you can make those changes. It's very simple. It's just a one-page form. Boom, make the change. Boom, done. Okay. You can try, but it will delay the entire process. Things get screwed up. If you can do it, I would wait until the contract's been fully executed to make any changes at all. You can never change the purchase price either. Okay, and HUD, even if we found a defect. Oh, okay. Let's say it doesn't appraise. Let's use this as an example. If it doesn't appraise, now keep in mind, we've already had an FHA appraiser appraise that property. But if by some chance it doesn't appraise, you got two options. They're not going to reduce the price. So you got two options: move forward and bring the cash to close, or cancel the contract and rebid. Okay. They will never reduce the price. HUD never does. If you change financing, that's fine. They allow that. But you have to get the documentation, obviously. If there's a correction, yeah, you can do that too. And I recommend doing that after the fact. Okay, they just say where to send it, where you can get it. Termite letters around $100, LVP 700. I think we talked about this. If you're changing from conventional to FHA, there is more time, might be needed, and they're going to give it to you. And they're not going to charge you for, or the buyer for it, especially homeowners, obviously. Lead-based paint, termites must be ordered. They have to do that. They take 5 to 7 days, and the field services people also are the ones that does this. Now, on lead-based paint, their contractors don't do it. They have a service that comes that does that. But termite, I think they have termite people on staff, if I'm mistaken, most of them anyway. If abatement is necessary, HUD will do it up to $4,000. And these are other parts of a possible change. Amendments take time to process, 72 hours. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They will not execute an amendment at the closing table or damn close to it, okay? You need to get those in at least 2 or 3, 4 days in advance. They'll do it, but they need it in advance. So if there's any amendments, that's these are all the resources you can go to find out at homestore.gov. HUD.gov, of course, navigating that site, if you're not familiar with it, it's like finding a needle in a haystack on HUD.gov. All right, questions? I'm sure we have a couple.
So most of these forms, as you log into the portal, you'll find, other than the state required ones like you mentioned earlier, but these other forms, you'll see them in the portal then on the property that you're bidding on. Is that where you get them, or do you go to the servicer that's listing the home?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
You had the examples of some of these amendments here, and
yeah, hang on.
and they're not the same as my state forms. And so do you get those forms from the portal on the home, on the property you're bidding on?
No, you don't fill those forms out. HUD generates all those forms. All right.
Okay.
And if there's an amendment needed, Hang on. If there's an amendment needed, then the asset manager or the prime vendor like Rain, KMM, whatever, they will generate those themselves. Now if you can go to their website, let's just go, matter of fact, you can look these up, modify these forms are all here, add or remove a purchaser. They're here. There's some of these amendments, but sometimes they're different types of amendments. So, but yes, they're here. Rain does it. And okay, and these are generic. So you could go to Rain, for example, and use this with KMM or A-Team, or A-Team may have their own, and they probably do. You just go to their website. Each state, you know, they're Rain and KMM and whatever, they're not in the same state. So whatever state you're located in, it's A-Team or whatever, then you'll go in, or it's Rain. You'll just go into that form. You'll know who they are. Go get the form and fill it out and send it in, and they'll fill it out. Or many times they like to just write it up themselves. You can do either or. You can request them to do it, or you can do it yourself as long as it's there. But if it's something unique, it will have to be generated, and the asset manager will generate that themselves. Does that make sense? Am I saying that?
Yeah, that reminds me of like short sales. You know,
Yeah.
you'll see same kind of thing through the asset manager there.
Right. And let's here's one. Let's just grab one that's floating around. But when you're on here, see here, this particular property, who cares what it is? But this is in a revite area. So this is probably going to be an investor property. So that's green. It's also 203K eligible, but it is, let's see, that house is insured for real. No way. Okay, you say so. Sorry, I've been doing this too long. I guarantee you that that's going to turn into being insured with escrow if they're using FHA financing. But here's the color codes. X, it's not in the OZ, it's not in the flood zones, not on the historical registers, all that stuff. But it is in a revite area. So that's always good to know. Okay. Now here's some of the things I was showing earlier. Property disclosure on this property. You all can still see this, right? They're saying this home needs no repairs. Okay. This is the property disclosure form. And here's the property condition report. And this is generated from the fuel services people. And they're saying they did their tests and they did not find any issues with this particular property. If there was an issue, it will be there. But these forms are provided to you here. There are no incentives for this property, I guarantee you that. Oh, the $100 down. Oh, let's talk about the $100 down. HUD does, excuse me. I know this does not make any sense at all, to be quite honest with you. However, if you have a client that wants to do the $100 down program, they can do that. It's not a problem, but it's a little bit deceptive. If the earnest money for that property was $1,000, it was over $50,000, okay? 50,000 and higher. It was $1,000 earnest money required. The client must provide the $1,000 EMD. Okay. Follow me now. Okay. This will tweak your brain. They must provide the $1,000 EMD, but $900 of that will be credited them at closing. Okay. Yeah, understand what I'm saying?
So are you like, you're saying like if you put $1,000 earnest
The
money?
earnest money, in other words, you're not just writing a check for $100.
Yeah,
Whatever normal earnest money would be required for that property, $500, $1,000, $2,000, whatever price range it falls in, as far as earnest money goes. You still have to provide the EMD, and it must be held in escrow till closing. And they will fill this out and all this stuff, send it in. But I'm using the example of $1,000. The $900 difference will be credited to them at closing, or they'll just write them a check. Title will just give them a check back for $900.
but you're closing, you're turning your escrow will balance it out
Yeah,
at the end.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know why they do this. Why don't they just let them have $100? Give them $100, be done. They don't. Don't ask me. It's the U.S. government. Okay.
But not all properties qualify for this. You were on the particular house that already had this option in its form.
Yes. The $100. Well, no, most owner occupants can do the $100 deal. Yeah, let's try another property. Let's find a higher end. What's this one here? No, this is 350. Let's look at it. No crap. Come on. Yeah, $100 down. Yeah. All FHA. $100 down. As long as the buyer will qualify for the loans and that sort of thing, and using quote FHA financing. But yes, they can qualify for that.
And if you got qualified buyers that fit this doesn't take away from your net to HOA or net to HUD at all.
No,
does it?
no, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And HUD, and also when on buyer agency commissions, HUD does not, if there's concessions requested, closing costs, whatever, they don't deduct that. It's straight whatever the price is. That's what your commission is based off of. Whatever the purchase price is. So, and some banks net that difference out and pay you whatever. I don't know if you know, any of you all know that or have seen it before, but some banks will, if you ask for 3,000 in concessions, they'll reduce your commission by the $3,000 stuff. The difference, you understand. All right, let me stop sharing. Okay. Lynn, we'll conclude this as part of our training. I appreciate everybody for coming. Lynn, why don't you go ahead and stop the recording?